Every whisper
has a witness,
every footprint
hides a name.
Okay, so I want you to imagine this. It's Mobile, Alabama, middle of summer. It's hot, it's humid, and the air just feels heavy. You're a homicide detective, and you've just walked into, well, a complete nightmare.
Yeah, nightmare is the right word, because you're not just dealing with one murder.
No, within a single 24-hour window, it's the very same apartment complex. You've got 2 dead bodies.
That's the absolute definition of a pressure cooker. And for an investigator, that isn't just, a logistical problem. It's a massive psychological burden. You're talking about resource saturation, decision fatigue.
All the things that can make you make a mistake.
Exactly. It's the perfect storm for errors.
So let's set the board here for everyone listening. First, you've got Gregory Sledge. He's 29, an up-and-coming rapper. He's been gunned down on a stairwell. It's chaotic. Police lights, neighbors out watching, the family is screaming. And then, literally the next day, while detectives are still canvassing for Greg, a second body is found just a few buildings over. Deanna Goddard, a 55-year-old mother, found stabbed to death in her own home.
And that right there, that's where our deep dive begins today.
Right, but we're not just here to retell a true crime story.
No, we're looking at the mechanics of the mind. My role here is to kind of guide you through this from an interrogation psychology perspective. We're going to analyze why certain tactics worked in one case to get a full confession, and why psychological barriers in the other case just led to a dead end.
It's a tale of 2 investigations feet apart. So we've got Greg, the rapper, shot multiple times, and then we have Deanna, the mother, found with a severe throat laceration.
Right. And immediately, before they even get a suspect in the box, the detectives are faced with their first psychological trap. It's subtle, but it's really dangerous.
You're talking about the red car theory.
Precisely.
Okay, so to get everyone up to speed, at Greg's shooting, the first crime witnesses tell the police they saw a red car speeding away from the scene. Fast forward to the next morning, Deanna is found dead, and her car is missing.
And the detectives, they are hoping, almost desperately, that Deanna's car is red. They want these cases to be connected.
Which makes sense, It wraps it all up in a neat little bow. You catch one person, you solve 2 murders. It's efficient.
It is efficient, and that's exactly why it's a trap. In my field, we call this confirmation bias.
Okay.
The brain, especially an investigator's brain under stress, is wired to seek patterns. We crave order, so it's cognitively easier to hunt for one killer than 2 separate ones.
So you start looking for evidence that confirms your theory, and you might accidentally ignore stuff that doesn't fit.
You start unconsciously filtering. You're hunting for a red car. You're building that narrative. But then reality hits them in the face.
The bubble bursts. They find Deanna's car. It's abandoned a few miles away in Pritchard. And it's a champagne-colored Toyota.
Definitely not red.
But aptly not red. And inside, there's a brick, which points
to something totally different. A staged scene, maybe a robbery, maybe a domestic thing. But the key takeaway is that the physical evidence forces them to break that confirmation bias. These are 2 separate homicides, 2 killers.
Same complex, same time.
Which brings us to a concept you mentioned earlier, cognitive load.
Right.
So think of the detective's brain like your computer's RAM. When they realize these cases aren't linked, their cognitive load instantly doubles. They're not solving one puzzle anymore. They're solving 2 distinct, unrelated puzzles with the same limited resources.
It's like having 50 tabs open on your browser and then trying to render a 4K video.
Exactly. Everything just slows down, and that's when you desperately need a win. You need a breakthrough to relieve some of that pressure, and they get one, but only in one of the cases.
Okay, so let's pivot to that breakthrough. Deanna Goddard's case, the mother who was stabbed. The detectives quickly zero in on her son, Kevin Carter.
And the profile here is really significant. Kevin is 27. He has a history of theft, drug use. Neighbors heard them fighting. He's not some criminal mastermind. They find him at a homeless camp.
So he's disheveled, scattered, clearly in distress.
Yes, and they bring him into the interrogation room. Detective Rogers, he doesn't go in hot. He doesn't slam the table. It's quiet.
Yeah, it feels different.
It is. If Rogers goes in aggressive, Kevin shuts down. He lawyers up. Game over. Instead, what he's doing is a textbook application of 2 core interrogation concepts: theme development and minimization. Okay, let's define those.
Because minimization sounds like he's trying to make murder seem like not a big deal.
It's a common misconception. He is, but in a very specific way. Theme development is where the interrogator suggests a story, a theme, that explains why the crime happened in a more morally acceptable way. And minimization is a tactic that downplays the moral gravity, not the legal consequence. You're not saying, this isn't murder. You're saying, you aren't a monster. You're a good person who was pushed too far and made a terrible mistake.
I see. So instead of you're a cold-blooded killer, it's more like things just got out of hand, didn't they? You didn't mean for this to happen.
Precisely. And Rogers reads Kevin's body language. He sees a man who looks like he's carrying the weight of the world, someone who wants to unburden himself. So he takes on this fatherly, almost pastoral tone. He even finds out Kevin has a church background.
And oh yeah, that part was fascinating. He quotes scripture, 1 John 1:7. If you walk in the light, the blood of Christ will cleanse you.
It's a brilliant tactical move. It's an appeal to a higher authority. Rogers finds what Kevin values, his faith, and uses that belief system to build rapport. He's not framing confession as a ticket to prison. He's framing it as a path to redemption. He literally offers him a clean slate.
It feels like he's talking to a parishioner, not a murder suspect.
He's creating a safe space in a very hostile environment. If a suspect feels judged, they build a wall. If they feel understood, they might just lower the drawbridge. But there's one specific moment, the one that I think seals the deal.
Oh, the cigarette.
The cigarette.
Right. Kevin's on the edge. He's teetering. He asks for a smoke.
Now, you can't usually smoke in an interrogation room, but Rogers allows it. This taps into a powerful psychological principle called reciprocity.
Reciprocity, like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Essentially, yes, we're hardwired with this social norm. If I do something for you, you feel this deep, often unconscious need to do something for me in return. By granting that small favor, the detective is creating a social debt.
So just by giving him a cigarette, he's making Kevin feel like he owes him something.
Yes, and it breaks that formal barrier. It humanizes the detective. It's no longer cop versus criminal. For a moment, it's just two guys having a smoke. In that high-stress environment, a small favor feels monumental. Rogers even lights it for him. That simple act is it's incredibly disarming.
And it works. Right after that smoke, Kevin confesses. He admits he cut his mother's throat. He says they were arguing about money, about his lifestyle, and he just snapped. He even says it didn't have to go that far.
And that phrase right there, it didn't have to go that far. That's him accepting the minimization theme that Rogers offered him. He's admitting guilt, but he's holding on to the psychological lifeline that it wasn't premeditated malice. The psychology worked. Case closed.
So Deanna's case gets solved because a detective built a psychological bridge. He managed the suspect's shame. But now we have to flip the coin and look at Gregory Sledge's case.
This is where we see the exact opposite effect. If Kevin's case was about connection, Greg's case is about obstruction. And the most frustrating part is that the obstruction isn't coming from the killer.
No, it's coming from the people who loved him. The detectives are just trying to solve his murder, and they hit what you could call a wall of silence.
A wall built by his own family and friends.
It starts with the girlfriend. They bring her in. She's described as jumpy and fidgety. They're just asking simple questions. Who was Greg beefing with? Did he use drugs? And she says no to everything.
Then they look at her phone. They have a warrant. And there's a picture of Greg smoking marijuana.
Boom. Caught in a lie. But, let's be honest, it's a small lie. It's just weed.
Legally, it's a small lie. But investigatively, it's a disaster. This brings us to a concept you could call distraction via omission.
Okay.
When a witness lies about small things, like drug use, usually to protect the victim's image, they destroy their own credibility.
So the detectives are left thinking, okay, if she's lying about the weed, what else is she lying about?
Exactly, and it wastes their time. Instead of hunting a killer, now they're vetting a witness. They have to use up cognitive energy just to get to the truth. And the biggest distraction of all, the thing that arguably kills this entire investigation, is the phone. Greg's phone. The hot potato.
It's unbelievable. The girlfriend has it. She gives it to the goddaughter. The goddaughter gives it to a cousin. The cousin gives it to the mother. It's being passed around the neighborhood while Greg is in the morgue.
And that phone is the digital witness. It's got the GPS, the texts, the calls, the DMs that probably set up the murder. Every time it changes hands, the evidence is corrupted.
But it gets so much worse when Detective Coleman finally tracks the phone down to Greg's mother, Brenda, and gets it into evidence.
It's been factory reset, wiped completely clean, everything gone.
Cyber forensics couldn't get a thing back, and here's the tragic part. It wasn't the killer who wiped it. It was his own mom.
This is the pivotal psychological moment of the entire case. You have to stop and really analyze her motivation. Because to us, it looks like obstruction of justice. But to her, she says basically, I saw videos of women, I saw things I didn't like, so I deleted it.
She actually told her other son, they don't need this phone.
This is a textbook, heartbreaking example of reputation management overriding forensic necessity. Her grief manifested as this desperate need to protect her son's image, his legacy. She wanted to preserve the memory of the good son.
She was trying to save face for him after he was already gone. She didn't want the cops to think he was some kind of thug.
Exactly. But the tragedy is the trade-off. By trying to protect his reputation, she unknowingly protected his killer. She thought she was saving him from judgment, but she was actually shielding his murderer from detection.
That's just... it's heartbreaking. She's scrubbing the scene of his life, but in doing so, she scrubbed all the clues to his death.
It is. It highlights this huge disconnect between the public and police procedure. To his mom, the phone was a diary of personal, maybe embarrassing stuff. To the police, it was the timeline of a murder. The bad stuff, the drug deals, the beefs, that's exactly where the killer was hiding.
And because that phone was wiped, all the leads they dried up. They found out Greg fought with a friend over $40 that day. They found a cousin who talked to him 3 minutes before the shooting. But without the texts, without the GPS...
It's all just circumstantial. They have a grainy video of a Toyota Corolla, but they can't get a plate. The digital breadcrumbs were the only way to connect that car to a person. When his mother wiped that phone, she essentially wiped the investigation.
And the contrast is just so stark. Deanna's case is solved because a detective created a safe space for the suspect to speak. He managed the shame. In Greg's case, the truth got buried because the family didn't feel safe sharing the reality of his life.
The shame took over. And that's the core of it. Investigation isn't just about fingerprints and shell casings. It's about navigating human emotion.
So what's the final takeaway for us?
I think it's a reminder of the fragility of forensic truth. We watch these shows, CSI and whatnot, and we think science solves everything, DNA, ballistics. But here, science was secondary to psychology. One case was solved with a conversation. The other was lost because of a deletion. The human element is still the most powerful tool we have.
And unfortunately, Gregory Sledge's case is still unsolved. Until then, we're left with one closed case, one cold case, and a lot to think about when it comes to the psychology of truth. Thanks for listening.
The first 48 hours don't just solve crimes, they expose human nature.
If you want real psychological breakdowns, not just headlines, hit subscribe and join 48 Hour Crime Psyche.
Because every decision leaves a trace, and every mind tells a story.
Every whisper,
Has a witness,
every footprint,
hides a name.